This happened a few months ago. I'm Jordan, a journalist. I was 32 and thought it would be a good idea to explore some old myths in my Appalachian hometown. I figured it would make for a great article. The town felt both familiar and strange to me. I honestly didn't think I was ready for what I would uncover. I started my investigation at a little diner. The food was decent, and the locals filled the place, chatting loudly. I struck up a conversation with an elderly woman. She told me a haunting story about a man who had vanished years ago. I laughed it off at first. It sounded like yet another ghost tale, But then a shadowy stranger approached me as I stepped outside. He looked intense, and his eyes flickered with warning. "Don't dig too deep into the past," he said, his voice low. I felt a chill run through me, but I shrugged it off, thinking he was just an eccentric local. As I continued my research, strange whispers followed me everywhere. People talked about more than one person disappearing in the woods. I tried to track down records, but the townsfolk dodged my questions. I could see it in their eyes, a blend of fear and something darker. Each day I wandered the thick forests surrounding town. The trees towered above me, casting long shadows. Occasionally I found strange symbols carved into the trunks. They reminded me of the folklore I read as a kid, but I didn't know what they meant. One night I felt a prickling fear. I was near where that man had gone missing. The air felt heavy. I could hear a low, uneasy sound, maybe a growl. My heart started racing as I scanned my surroundings. Then I spotted a figure at the edge of the trees. It stood still, watching me. A cold sweat broke out on my skin. "Is anyone there?" I called, but only silence answered me. Days passed, and the feeling of unease intensified. I searched for more symbols and old stories, but each lead seemed to spiral out. At times, I thought I saw the strange figure again, but perhaps it was my imagination playing tricks on me. I didn't sleep well those nights. People in town looked at me differently, like I was crazy. I started to wonder if I should just leave these stories buried. Maybe I was meant to walk away. But something in me wanted to dig deeper. Then, I heard someone whisper my name behind me. I turned around, but nobody was there. I felt my heart race then. The woods were calling me back, urging me to find out more. But I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I uncovered would lead to something dark. I just wasn't sure if I was ready for that. Maybe some stories are better left untold. But now, all I wanted was to know. What was lurking out there? And was that whisper just the wind, or was it warning me to stop? I didn't have answers. I don't think I ever will. That night, sleep came in short bursts. I tossed and turned, replaying the whispers in my head. They lingered like echoes waiting for something to break the silence. I needed to find answers. The town's shadows had grown darker, and I was caught in their grasp. The next day I decided to head back into the woods. I felt a strange pull to go deeper this time, even though every fiber in me screamed to turn around. Armed with a flashlight, a notebook, and a growing sense of dread, I walked along the trails where the air felt thicker. I kept my eyes open for any signs, the symbols or maybe even the figure that had haunted me. After an hour of wandering, I stumbled upon a clearing. It felt different here. A quietness enveloped me, way too still for the woods. Then I saw it. In the center of the clearing, there lay a stone altar, covered in dirt and overgrown weeds. I walked closer, heart racing. The surface was uneven, marked with the same symbols I had seen before. My stomach churned. I pulled out my notebook and sketched one of the symbols. The moment my pencil touched the page, I heard something, almost like a fluttering. I thought it was just the wind. It wasn't until I looked up that I realized the trees had grown darker, almost alive. "Hello?" I called, unsure if I was speaking to the woods or something deeper. No answer came, but then I heard it again, a whisper. It wrapped around me, chilling my bones. "Leave now." Panic shot through me. I stepped back, ready to bolt. That's when something caught my eye. A figure emerged from behind the trees, my breath hitched in my throat. It was the stranger from the diner. He stood there, silent and still, eyes fixed on me. "I told you to stop," he said, voice low. "Who are you?" I stammered, unable to turn away from the intensity in his gaze. He hesitated, as if weighing his words. "You need to leave before it's too late. The woods don't forgive." "What do you mean?" I pressed, desperate for answers, feeling the ground shift under me in the presence of fear. He stepped closer. "The altar. It's not just an old thing, it's a doorway, and it needs something to stay shut." I felt my pulse quicken. Something lurked behind those words. "What does it want?" I asked, my voice shaking. He shook his head. "You don't want to know." Before I could speak again, a low growl emanated from the trees behind him. The sound was deep and primal, sending a wave of instinctual fear through me. I wanted to run, but something held me there, curiosity or dread, perhaps both. "Get out, now," he shouted, and I turned and sprinted back down the path, the growl pursuing me. As I ran, I realized the whispers had turned into screams, echoing my name in a way that chilled me to the core. I didn't stop until I burst out of the woods into the town, gasping for breath. My thoughts were a chaotic storm. The figure, the whispers. There was more to the stories than I realized. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was out there was not done with me yet. And deep down, I felt that I had awakened something, or perhaps it had been watching me all along. The question lingering in my mind as I stumbled through the town was whether I'd ever truly be safe again. I spent the next few days in a haze. The echoes of that encounter haunted me. I couldn't focus at school, and my friends' laughter felt distant, muffled by the weight of what I had discovered. I avoided the woods, but a current of fear and curiosity kept pulling me back to that clearing. Everything shifted again when I went to the diner one evening. I needed comfort food, a distraction from the chaos. As I walked in, I noticed the stranger was seated in his usual spot. He was looking my way, his expression unreadable. My heart raced, fear battling with the need for answers. I made my way to a booth across from him, my palms sweaty on the table. "Why did you tell me to leave?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I told you, the woods don't forgive," he said, eyes dark and wary. "What you saw is only the beginning." "What do you mean?" I pressed, feeling frustration boil beneath my surface. He sighed, glancing around as if someone was eavesdropping. "You're curious, but curiosity leads to trouble. That altar, people have disappeared around it. It feeds on the curious." I felt a chill creep down my spine. "Disappeared? Like gone forever?" He nodded, and I sensed a deep, underlying fear in his demeanor. Many who have been drawn to it lose their way, physically and mentally. It's powerful, and it calls to you. You need to make a choice. "A choice?" I echoed, perplexed. "What choice?" He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Leave it alone, or embrace it, but understand there's no turning back. Once you step into those woods again, there's no telling what you'll unleash." I was silent, grappling with his words. The weight of existence beyond the mundane felt unbearable. What awaited me in the woods? The growl I had heard lingered in the back of my mind, a warning I couldn't ignore. Suddenly, the diner's lights flickered. Everyone turned to look, uncertainty rippling through the crowd. I glanced back at him and he wore a solemn expression. "It's starting," he said softly. Before I could register his words, the power shut off completely. The diner was plunged into darkness. Cries and shuffles broke out as panic set in. I fumbled under the table for my phone, but it was dead. "Stay close!" The stranger's voice cut through the chaos. I felt compelled to follow him. I didn't know why, but panic thrummed in my veins, guiding my steps. The whispers I had encountered in the woods returned, creeping into the darkness. "Leave," they seemed to say, curling around my thoughts. "Get out." The stranger's hand found my arm, leading me toward the back door. "We need to go," he urged. "There's no time." Just then, a loud crash echoed through the diner, followed by a guttural sound that made my skin crawl. Fear gripped me. "What was that?" I whispered, dread creeping in. He pulled me along, urgency in his eyes. "The woods are angry. We're not safe here." I had no choice but to trust him as we stumbled out into the night. When I stepped into the dim light of the parking lot, my thoughts raced. The connection to the woods was stronger than I had imagined. I had to confront it, whatever it was. But then, amid the chaos, I saw something moving in the shadows at the edge of the woods. I squinted, heart pounding. That figure again, or something else entirely. That was the moment I realized. Fear would no longer be enough to keep me away. I needed answers, and whatever had been awakened wasn't going to stop until I found them. I took a step towards the woods, drawn like a moth to a flame. The whispering voices curled around me, tugging at the edges of my sanity. I struggled to keep my footing as shadows danced under the moonlight. There was something waiting for me there, something I needed to face. "Don't!" The stranger's voice cut through the air. I turned back to him, his face contorted in desperation. "You can't go in there." But I was already moving closer, instinct pulling me into the familiar darkness. "What if there's something I can do? What if I can stop it?" I shouted over my shoulder. The woods felt alive, pulsating with a dark energy that was hard to resist. "I wish it were that simple," he yelled back, sounding frantic now. "You don't understand. The woods will take you and you'll never return." I glanced at him, a tangle of fear and determination knotting in my chest. "You've already been there. You know what it's like. Isn't there anything you can tell me?" He hesitated, the tension crackling in the air between us. Then he spoke slowly, as if the words weighed as much as the night itself. "I thought I could confront it, just like you. Trust me, I lost pieces of myself in that place, and what came back was not me." His words sank in, but the pull of the woods was overpowering. I took another step forward. Then everything changed. A rustle came from behind me, and instinctively I spun around. There was something out there, closer than I had thought. My heart raced. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, fear slicing through me. The stranger nodded, his expression grave. "We need to move now." I turned back toward the trees, and that's when I saw it. A figure lurked at the edge of the clearing, its shape monstrous in the shadows. Adrenaline shot through my veins. "What is that?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Pray it doesn't see us," he replied, gripping my arm tighter. "That's what I was warning you about. It's a guardian of the altar, and it won't let anyone who's been called to it escape." Called to it. The realization struck me. I felt as if the ground beneath me had disappeared. "You mean I'm being drawn to this? That thing wants me to be there?" The stranger stared at the thing in the woods, his eyes wide. "It feeds on those who seek answers. You mustn't approach it, not now." But my mind was racing, and I couldn't shake the feeling I'd be walking away with more than just fear. The whispers had been right all along. They were waiting for me to answer their call. We backed away slowly, keeping our eyes on the shadowy figure, uncertainty swirling in my mind. Suddenly it lunged. I barely had time to scream as the stranger pulled me, dragging me away just in time. I stumbled, nearly losing my footing as adrenaline spurred my legs to run. What now? I breathlessly gasped as we darted towards the parking lot. "We need to find somewhere safe, but they won't stop," he said, glancing over his shoulder. "Not until you understand." I wanted to argue, but I was already falling back into the murky depths of the woods. Just as we reached the car, a piercing wail echoed behind us, a sound that shattered the night. I realized with mounting dread that I wasn't just running from the woods. I was running into something far worse. What happens when I can't escape this pull? And why did the darkness seem to want me so badly? The questions loomed like shadows, and I feared that answers could come at an unimaginable price. I fumbled for my keys as the stranger threw open the passenger door. We scrambled inside, the engine sputtering as I turned the ignition. The familiar rattle offered a false sense of security, but I knew the real danger was still lurking close behind. What was that thing? I gasped, glancing nervously at the woods. The branches swayed as if in response, their whispered sighs beckoning me to return. "It's a guardian," the stranger breathed, his voice strained. "But it's so much more. It's an embodiment of fears and regrets, an echo of those who've tried to uncover the truth before you. If it gets you—" I swallowed hard, my mind racing. What truth? What does it want with me? "I don't know," he admitted, frustration coloring his tone. "But your connection to it is stronger than I understood. That's why I was drawn here." He paused, his eyes locking onto mine. "You have to face it. You must understand what it means." I shook my head. I can't go back there." A thread of panic tangled with my resolve. "Then it will keep coming for you. The longer we stay away, the stronger its hold will grow," he said, urgency rising in his voice. "We have to find the center before it finds you again." Find the center? What does that even mean? I was drowning in confusion, feeling the weight of his words settle over me like a heavy cloak. "There's an altar deep within the woods. It's where the energy gathers, where it feeds," he explained, gripping the edge of his seat. "If we can reach it, maybe you can uncover the truth behind your connection." A shiver of dread racked my body. What kind of truth lurked there? But the thought of remaining hunted by that terrible figure spurred me to action. "Then let's go," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We raced down the narrow road, the headlights casting long beams into the suffocating darkness. Trees loomed overhead, their outlines twisting and shifting. Every creak and groan of the car sent a jolt of fear through me. I was leaving the safety of civilization, throwing myself into the abyss. As we drew closer to the edge of the woods, I felt a sickening twist in my stomach. What if it's not just the guardian? What if the woods themselves are alive? My voice trembled with each word. The stranger swallowed hard, his brow furrowing. "That's a risk we'll have to take. But we must keep our minds clear, stay focused. If we give in to fear, it will consume us." With a deep breath, I pushed the panic down, determined to confront whatever awaited me. The parking lot came into view, and I parked hastily. We exited the car, and the chill of the night air bit into my skin. "Are you ready?" the stranger asked, his face a mask of concern and determination. "I have to be," I replied, though doubt gnawed at me. We stepped toward the darkened path, the whispers beckoning me forward. Then a chilling realization struck me. I can't continue unless I understand what it wants from me. As I lingered on that thought, the ground beneath us trembled. The rumble was faint, yet unmistakable. Something was shifting in the distance. I turned to see a hazy light flickering beyond the tree line. My heart sank. That light was not the sanctuary I'd hoped it would be. It felt like a beacon summoning me deeper into the woods. And then I heard it again, that haunting wail echoing close behind us. Someone, or something, was not ready to let me go. The air thickened around us as we stepped onto the path. The forest loomed, a twisted labyrinth hiding its secrets. I hesitated, the light flickering in the distance pulling me like a magnet. But it felt dangerous, deceptive. "Where do we go from here?" I asked, forcing my feet to move forward despite the growing unease. The stranger pointed with determination. We follow the path to the altar. It's our only chance, but we need to be careful. Stay close. I nodded, though fear gnawed at my insides. The shadows danced as if alive, and the trees whispered warning secrets. Every crack of a branch or rustle of leaves sent shivers down my spine. The wail echoed again, a mournful sound that clawed at my heart. "We need to hurry," I said, urgency creeping into my voice. The sounds of the night amplified every step we took, as if the woods themselves were closing in around us. As we ventured deeper, I noticed the ground beneath us began to pulse with a strange energy. It felt warm, like the earth was breathing. I glanced back at the stranger, his face pale and tense. "Is this normal?" I asked, eyeing the fluctuations in the ground. He shook his head. "No. The energy shouldn't be this strong. The closer we get to the altar, the more unstable it becomes. We might be awakening something." A low growl rumbled through the trees, vibrating in my bones. I held my breath. "What do you mean, awakening something?" He looked away, his eyes searching the dark. "Legends speak of what lies at the altar. It's not just a place of gathering. It's a crucible of power. If it senses us, if it senses you, it could react." An overwhelming sense of dread washed over me. "What kind of reaction are we talking about?" "I don't know," he admitted, fear creeping into his eyes, "but I can't let it happen. We just have to keep moving." Just then the ground shook violently, causing us both to stumble. I managed to catch myself, but I could see panic flicker in the stranger's eyes. The wail grew louder, morphing into multiple voices, rising and falling like a haunting chorus. "Run!" he shouted, urgency cutting through the fear. We sprinted down the path, heart pounding. The flickering light was closer now, pulsing erratically like a living heartbeat. The sounds closed in around us, the wails mixing with whispers that prickled my skin. As we reached a clearing, the light burst into view, illuminating an altar wrapped in vines and roots. It was carved from stone, nearly swallowed by nature, yet radiating an unsettling energy. But it was what lay on the altar that froze me. An old book lay open, its pages flipping wildly as if caught in an unseen wind. The words glowed, a language I didn't recognize yet felt oddly familiar. It was calling to me. "Do you hear that?" I muttered, drawing closer. "What? What do you hear?" the stranger asked, panic gripping his voice. "Silence," I said, realizing it was true. The wails had stopped. The air felt charged, electric, and heavy. The forest held its breath as its power concentrated in this one spot. Then I noticed something moving in the shadows, a figure stepping forward, cloaked in darkness. My breath caught as I recognized those haunting eyes. "It's here," I whispered, as the figure raised a hand, its intentions unclear, and my heart raced in fear. I didn't have time to think. Instinct kicked in, and I stumbled backward, heart racing as I tried to process what I was seeing. The figure stepped into the light, revealing features twisted with age and sorrow. The eyes, though familiar, were filled with an unsettling emptiness, haunting me like a shadow. "Who are you?" I managed to whisper, the question escaping before I could stop it. It opened its mouth, but no sound came out. Instead, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, rustling the leaves, while the book's pages flipped furiously as if they were trying to communicate. "Stay back," the stranger shouted, his voice snapping me from my stupor. He stepped in front of me, eyes locked on the figure as he positioned himself protectively. "What do we do?" I asked, voice trembling. I was still glued to the spot, a mix of fascination and terror coursing through me. The figure raised its hand again, this time pointing at the altar. The glowing words seemed to respond, brightening as if they were alive. I felt a tug in my chest, a call from the pages urging me to draw closer. "You can't," the stranger yelled. "Don't listen to it!" But each heartbeat echoed louder in my ears, drowning out his warnings. The air around me crackled with energy, and I felt an overwhelming urge to obey. I have to see it, I murmured, almost helplessly. Suddenly the ground trembled again. This time it wasn't a simple shake. It felt as if the earth itself was reacting to our presence, and the shadows around the altar twisted violently. The figure shifted, its form becoming less defined, as if it were part of the darkness itself. With a surge of adrenaline, the stranger grabbed my arm. "We need to leave now," he shouted, pulling me back as I reluctantly tore my gaze away. But the figure reacted, its eyes burning bright as it rushed toward us, unleashing a wave of energy that sent us sprawling to the ground. My chest compressed as the force hit, and dread settled in. "Run. We can't let it touch us," I heard the stranger yell from somewhere beyond my panic. We scrambled to our feet, eyes darting between the altar and the advancing figure. The air pulsed with an unsettling vibration, and I knew we couldn't linger any longer. We tore back down the path, foliage slapping against us as we stumbled through the darkness. But every step felt heavier, as if the woods were pulling us back, trying to drag us into their depths. The wails returned, more frantic than before, blending with the whispers that climbed up my spine. "Why is it following us?" I shouted over the chaos, fear spilling out of me. I don't know," he gasped, glancing back, "but it wants something from you." The words hit like ice water, freezing my thoughts. What could it want? I had barely processed this when the shadows seemed to coalesce, blocking our path ahead. I skidded to a halt. "Look," I pointed. The darkness in front of us was thickening, swirling like smoke. Then, just as suddenly, the figure appeared again, stepping from the shadows with an unsettling grace. Its features flickered, almost shifting, like I was seeing it through a veil. My heart pounded as I grasped the stranger's arm tightly. "What do we do?" Before he could answer, the forest erupted with noise, the trees creaked, branches snapped, and the cries rose to a deafening roar. Everything was closing in, and all I could think was that we had to find a way out. But that's when I saw it. The glowing book on the altar, beckoning me with its silent command. And a piece of me knew I couldn't escape without knowing why it was calling my name. I felt a chill as the figure moved closer, shadows swirling around us like angry spirits. My instinct screamed to run, but my feet remained locked in place. The stranger's grip on my arm tightened, and I could see the sheer panic etched on his face. "Make a decision," he urged. "Now." That's when I noticed the forest was shifting. The trees bent unnaturally, their gnarled branches clawing at the air as if trying to grasp hold of something. I glanced at the altar, still illuminated, its light now pulsing in synchronization with my racing heart. I stammered, desperation clawing at my throat. "I can't just leave it." "Don't you get it?" he shot back, glancing nervously at the figure now standing mere feet away. "It wants to trap you. If you go to that book, it'll take you." As if responding to our exchange, the figure lunged forward with a hiss that filled the air. I instinctively flinched, stepping back into the stranger. But as I did, I caught a glimpse of the book's pages flapping wildly, revealing snippets of strange writing. "Wait!" I exclaimed, squinting at the pages. Something about them felt familiar, like a whisper from a forgotten dream. "It's trying to tell me something." "No." His voice was sharp, cutting through my confusion. "It's a trap." But I couldn't help it. My feet betrayed me, as if pulled by an unseen force. I started toward the altar, drawn to the words glowing in the darkness. The closer I got, the louder the whispers became, mingling with the cries of the forest as they beckoned me. Suddenly the atmosphere shifted, an icy breeze sliced through the air, and the whispers morphed into anguished wails. The stranger yelled something, but the noise drowned him out. Just as I reached the altar, the figure burst into a shadowy mist, enveloping me like a cloak. I could hardly breathe. Panic surged as I looked down at the book, its cover adorned with symbols that buzzed with an ancient energy. I snapped my gaze back to the figure. It hovered just out of reach, its eyes now a swirling void that threatened to swallow me whole. "Get out of there!" the stranger shouted, eyes wide with terror. I caught sight of him pulling back, fighting against something unseen. That was when I realized he was being pulled backward, the ground beneath him shifting like quicksand. "Help!" he cried, panic seeping into his voice. Everything felt surreal. I struggled to focus on the book, to decipher its meaning. Words swirled in my mind, unfinished thoughts buzzing like angry bees. I could see fragments of a story, shadows of past lives caught in its pages. But what did it mean? Before I could comprehend further, the shadows erupted from the book in a blinding flash. They coiled around me, and an overwhelming feeling of despair washed over me. I staggered backward, almost stumbling into the stranger's grasp. "Don't let it take you," he yelled, and his urgency broke through the fog in my mind. But just as I turned to run, one final whisper caught my ear. "You belong here." The truth of it settled like a stone in my chest, leaving me breathless. I could feel the shadows tightening around me. I had to choose. Break free from this darkness or discover whatever connection the book held to me. Then the world plunged into darkness as another wave hit us, and I knew things would never be the same again. I gasped as the darkness enveloped us, swallowing every sound, every thought. Time felt meaningless in this thick void. My heart raced in the silence, hammering against my ribs like a desperate prisoner trying to escape. Then, in a sudden shift, light broke through the darkness. It wasn't the soft glow of the altar, but a harsh white light pouring in from above. I blinked against the brightness, my surroundings shifting. The forest was gone, replaced by stark, cold walls. I stumbled forward, feeling disoriented and lost. "Where are we?" My voice shook. The stranger stood beside me, visibly trembling. "I don't know, it's like we've been pulled into another realm or something." I swept my gaze around. The space was barren, just a gray expanse. No trees, no altar, just a feeling of weight pressing down on us. I felt my back tighten. I didn't like how exposed we were. "I can't shake the feeling that the book is still out there," I said, unease curling in my stomach. "What if it's looking for us?" He flinched at my words. "That thing is dangerous. We need to find a way back. We can't stay here." Before I could respond, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through our bodies. It was like the echoes of the forest's whispers, but muted and distorted. I turned, searching for the source, but all I saw were the endless gray walls. "That noise," I breathed. "What is that?" "I don't know, but we should—" Suddenly, I felt a tug at my consciousness. The light flickered above us, and the ground beneath my feet rippled like a disturbed pond. "No!" I screamed as the floor started to crack, running toward the stranger. "Run!" he shouted, bolting in the opposite direction. My legs moved instinctively, but panic threatened to root me in place again. As we ran, more cracks spread across the ground, sunlight breaking through them in sharp rays. A shadow rippled along the walls, and I glanced back in time to see a massive shape emerging from the darkness. It loomed over us like a storm cloud, hollow eyes piercing through the fading light. "We can't outrun it," I gasped, fear electrifying my limbs. "Just keep going," he yelled, eyes wide with determination. I didn't know where we were heading, but I couldn't stop now. The shadows crawled closer, stretching like fingers eager to ensnare us. Something within me screamed that I needed to confront the book. It was the source of all of this. It had to be. But how? A new crack split the ground, and I stumbled, nearly falling. That's when I saw it. An inscription etched in the floor, glowing faintly under my touch. It read, "To unlock the shadows, embrace the light." Without thinking, I shouted, "I need to get back to the book." "What?" the stranger yelled, panic straining his voice. "I can't leave it behind, it's the only way." Then another wave hit us, swirling shadows creeping closer as the hum transformed into anguished wails. "No," I screamed, trying to wrench myself free from the pull of the darkness. He grabbed my arm, his grip firm. "You don't have to do this alone. We'll figure it out together." But as I looked into his eyes, the weight of the connection we shared was lost in the storm of shadows surrounding us. I stood torn. Would it lead to my salvation or my doom? In that moment of indecision, the shadows surged forward and everything went black again. I awoke beneath the stars, the cool air brushing against my skin. The oppressive weight had lifted, leaving only a faint echo of the darkness that had enveloped me. Disoriented, I struggled to sit up, scanning my surroundings. The altar loomed in the clearing, bathed in an eerie light, and the forest held its breath, as though waiting to exhale. "Jordan!" I heard the stranger's frantic voice call from somewhere near me. I pushed against the damp earth, forcing myself to my feet, relief flooding through me when I spotted him leaning against a tree, panting as if he had run a marathon. "Are we back?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "Yes," he replied, his eyes full of a mixture of hope and wariness. "But something's changed, I can feel it." A chill ran down my spine as I contemplated what changed could mean. The book had been reacting to us, but in what way? The shadows had felt so alive, so intent on claiming me. In our struggle, I had sensed their hunger, their desire for someone, or something, to embrace them fully. The whispers returned, drifting through the trees, sending my heart racing anew. "They're calling for you," the stranger murmured beside me. "But you're the only one who can decide how to respond. This time you must be ready to face it." I nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. What had happened in that strange place felt incomplete, as if there was a lingering piece I hadn't yet grasped. I glanced toward the altar, its otherworldly light pulsing like a heartbeat. I had to confront whatever bond had formed. "Let's go," I said, resolutely making my way toward it. As we stepped into the clearing, the atmosphere shifted. Shadows lengthened and flickered, almost alive, wrapping around us like an embrace. The book lay open, its pages still flipping as though wind blew through them, only there was no breeze. "It wants me," I said quietly, knowing it was true. "No, we can't go through this again," the stranger urged, his voice filled with desperation. Fear settled in my chest, but I pushed it aside. I need to understand its demand. Maybe it can tell us what happened. I crossed the threshold carefully, trying to remain steady. The forest around us thickened, concentrating into a shimmering void. Tension buzzed in the air, sending a rippling charge through my body. Suddenly, a low growl emerged from the depths of the shadows, escalating into an insistent chorus of whispers, urgent, pleading, begging. In that moment, I remembered the words I had glimpsed on the floor in that unbearable expanse. To unlock the shadows, embrace the light. Gathering my courage, I stepped closer to the altar, reaching out a hand to touch the cover of the book. The instant my fingers brushed against it, a blinding light erupted, forcing me to shield my eyes. I felt the ground beneath me tremble, as if it were uncertain of its own allegiance. "Stay back," the stranger shouted, but I didn't flinch. A surge of resolution shot through me. The light intensified, rippling around like molten glass. "Embrace the light," I cried out, instinct guiding my voice. I focused on the bond I felt with the forest, the whispers, the shadows that had haunted me. They were part of this place, and they craved acknowledgement, not fear. With a deep breath, I closed my eyes and let the warmth wash over me, absorbing it as I allowed the shadows to swirl around me. I could feel the tension releasing, the heavy burden lessening. The energy pulsed through us, flooding with sensations. Past lives, desires, regrets, and hopes flowed in and out like the cycles of nature itself. Suddenly, the figure rose from the shadows, silhouetted against the light. It reached out to me, and I saw in those dark depths a reflection of myself. My fears, my regrets, my unresolved questions coalesced into one haunting visage. I held its gaze, understanding boiling in the depths of me. It didn't seek to take me. It wanted to be understood. A piece of an unbroken cycle, never truly lost, but eternally restless. I realized we were both products of these woods. The question was not what it demanded from me, but rather what I could share in return. As I opened my arms wide, the shadows recoiled, pulling back from the light as if drawn away from their worst fears. I steadied my breath. I accept this part of me, I declared, my voice no longer trembling. I won't run from the darkness. It's as integral as the light. The shadows bent and twisted around me, shaking as if in response to my vow. The book began to glow with a fierce intensity, and the light enveloped the altar, washing over us. An ethereal chorus emerged, rising in crescendo, and then quiet fell abruptly. With a gasp, I opened my eyes, surrounded by the soft glow. The altar stood before me, still, and the book lay closed. The whispers had faded into a gentle hum, no longer threatening but soothing, blending into the calm of the night air. "There's so much we don't understand," the stranger whispered, his voice shaking slightly. "Perhaps," I mused, stepping back. The urgency had diminished, yet I could still feel the pulse of the forest resonating deep within me. But for now, we've forged a new understanding. As we turned to leave, the woods behind us felt different, lighter, almost welcoming. Yet deep down, I knew the questions remained. Why had I been chosen? What lay beyond the altar and in the whispers of the townsfolk? I moved toward the path, intrigued but cautious. The woods would always carry their mysteries. As we passed through the dim foliage, I turned around for a final glance, the shadows dancing playfully around the trees. One thing was for sure. I'd never ignore my instincts again, nor shy away from the darkness that dwells within every mystery waiting to be unveiled. The echoes of the past lingered, but perhaps they would lead to futures untold. In the quiet of my thoughts, I sensed the questions waiting. They were part of me now. And though the forest behind us held many answers, I realized the true quest had only just begun.